Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders.
Welcome back, everyone. Sitting down, continuing the supervisor and team leader roles this week. And this week we're going to cover what is the difference between a supervisor and a team leader.
Yeah, there's not many differences. They're pretty similar, but there are a few, and they're somewhat significant, so we'll touch on those.
And I think a lot of them, we've covered a lot of them in the last couple episodes talking about team leaders and supervisors, but this will kind of be more of a culmination of,
right?
Maybe is that the right word? Just bringing it all together and comparing them side by side.
Yep.
What would you say is the biggest difference between a team leader and a supervisor?
The major difference is supervisors have all of the, I guess let's call them HR related issues to deal with. Team leaders don't.
Okay.
I think that's the primary difference between the two. You're going to get information relayed from the team lead to the supervisor about performance and everything, but that's the extent of it for the team lead.
So
supervisor has to do all the documentation, any attendance, any reviews, all of that kind of stuff is handled by the supervisor, not the team lead. So that's the primary difference between the two. Other than that, I mean, you share the responsibility of getting to know your team, building that level of respect. You share the responsibility of learning the job and understanding the process. You share the responsibility of handling the team and relaying information back and forth about how production is and what needs to happen and what's going to happen in order to get there. If something happens directly to the team lead has to relay that information to the supervisor. Supervisor then figures it out, relays it back to the team lead, who then enacts whatever action the supervisor just said. So they're sharing that responsibility. The only thing that's different is the HR stuff.
the word that comes to mind for me is the authority.
Yeah.
You are an actual authority figure, which a team lead is still... There's still a role there, a name assigned to it, and you should have some authority or some respect for that position, but you don't have the authority to actually make changes. You don't fire people.
To some level.
You don't fire people.
Right.
You don't hire people.
Right.
You don't make those decisions. You don't make the pay increases. You don't have any of that actual decision making.
Right.
That you have any authority over.
Right. Yes. Correct. Gets a gray line, at least with me, because I empowered my team leads to make decisions. So if there was something that happened and they had a solution, by all means, just make shit happen and let me know what you did.
Yeah.
I can move on with my day. And that's what would happen. So, so-and-so went home, so I did this, and I shut this down because I looked this up and noticed we had enough, so we don't need to run that. I took that person over here. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
If you have set reasoning for why you did something, why you made a decision, absolutely. As a team leader, you should have some explanation for why you did it.
And that's what I mean. Like, I empowered them, so I had trained them to, this is what I do. When I'm trying to figure out what decision I'm going to make, this is my guidelines for it. And we just worked through that process. And once they understood my process enough, they would make the same decision that I would make. They just do it for me. So It eliminated the need for me to
Which
question
is
or double check any of it.
which is exactly what we want. We should be able to build teams that are able to do the job without you being the one to tell them.
My job is I'm trying to eliminate myself.
Right.
Okay, it'll never happen, but that's my goal. Trying to eliminate the need for myself. The roles and responsibilities of the jobs are where we can get into quite a few differences. But the overall generality of the position, I mean, as far as leadership goes, I think it's really the same. It's more intimate with the team lead than it is with the supervisor, and that's why like the roles of the team leader versus the supervisor are going to be different, but generally the only difference is authority.
So typically, supervisors typically should be more experienced and have been around longer than a team leader, or have a background that reflects, that shows that they fit in that role.
More leadership experience,
Yes.
I would say.
Yes, because you're not just going to throw somebody into supervisor without having any way to assess whether or not they are capable of being a good leader.
Right. And because supervisors can bounce industries
Yes.
and still be a supervisor, but you couldn't go from floor worker to supervisor just because you changed industries.
Agreed.
So leadership experience. How about is a team leader higher or lower than a supervisor? We've pretty much covered that.
Yeah.
That's
You're
team
at the
leads-
base level of leadership,
right.
but you're not
team leads
managing.
report to supervisors.
Yes.
So that's an easy one to knock off right there.
It's the hierarchy of it.
Yep.
You go from somebody on the floor to a team lead, from a team lead to a supervisor.
On what you said about authority, what authority does a team leader have then?
Like I said, team leaders don't get to make personnel decisions, so they don't get to hire and fire people. Team leader is not going to be able to deviate from the large scope of what needs to be accomplished. So if the supervisor says, this is the end goal, this is what has to be done today, team leader can't just say, well, that's not going to happen today. We're just not going to do any of that. Team leader, I would say you have the authority to make decisions in maybe the process that it takes to get to that end goal, but you don't get to change the end goal. So you can take a different road, take a different path, as long as it accomplishes the same goal.
Okay.
Now, if you're told this has to be done this exact way,
Short of hiring and firing
yes.
and that type of, yes.
As long as you don't deviate from standards, but you still accomplish the same goal, you have the ability to make that decision. Change the direction, change the way that you're approaching a situation, but you're not going to change the goal for the end of the day.
Okay. Yep.
Or the end of the week, or whatever has to be accomplished. You don't get to hire and fire people. Say get to, but use that lightly. 'Cause sometimes it might be a
You're
positive.
an asshole.
Sometimes it might be a positive thing, and it might be a relief to get rid of somebody. But
You like firing people, don't lie.
but it's not something that's easy to do.
Right.
Not fun having to tell some people that. Sometimes it is. I'm an asshole. You don't make decisions. You just kind of carry on information as a team leader. Like the big decisions, like you said, the HR related tasks and everything that the supervisor decides or has to deal with. Team leaders don't have the authority to do that, but you're going to you're going to relay information that allows the supervisor to make that decision.
Yeah.
And that's
I'd say team leaders have the authority to build relationships and what was the other one I was the authority to
mediate situations.
it's gonna like motivate the team, and that can be in a number of different ways. I mean, it can be different incentives, it can be different goals, different just there's a off the top of my head I can't think of how to describe it, but there's different ways to motivate your team and
Incentivize work.
yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But the team lead has the authority to organize things like that.
And I wouldn't even say the authority. You have the responsibility to do that.
Yeah, well,
You
we asked
need-
the question, what authority does a team
Yes.
lead have? So
Yep.
trying to relate it to that, but
Yeah, but that's not going to be the supervisors. They're not working one-on-one with all the people. They're not always being right there. So the supervisor should acknowledge and maybe have some sort of incentives or reward for those that they're in charge of, but the team leaders are the ones on the day-to-day basis. So is there ways that the team leader, the one that the people are actually know on a more personal level, they should be the ones to be able to incentivize or know what incentives people need.
right.
I mean, you get to know people to that level.
Yeah.
What motivates you? How can I keep you going? Where the supervisors, they can drop by once in a while, but your supervisor's scope of personnel that they're in charge of versus a team leader's is
Vastly different. Right.
Yes.
Right.
So you don't get that more intimate level incentives or rewards for people like you would as a team leader, I would say.
Yeah.
Because you have the ability to know people more in depth than you do as a supervisor. You should know your people, but you're not going to know every individual, especially as newer people come in and you don't get to work one-on-one with all the newer people.
Length of time with the team can dictate a lot of that. I mean,
Yeah.
more time you spend with a specific team, the better you're going to get to know them, even as a supervisor.
100%.
But, yeah. In general, they get to know them on a more intimate level at the team leader level. Yep. Team leaders are also the first line of direct mentorship. So the team lead needs to have a very strong sense of leadership and how to handle certain situations. They can obviously escalate when certain situations arise and certain things happen. You have to escalate, but guiding that team and mentoring that team, again, the first line of defense is that team lead. So they need to have a strong sense of leadership as well. And obviously that's going to be a trait you're looking for when you're hiring them.
And that all comes down to the supervisor themselves as well, because that's your opportunity to mentor the team leader and say, hey, here's how this situation went out. Here's how maybe you could try to approach it.
Right.
Or why don't you try this? Or, hey, this is how you handled that situation. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
Here's some feedback on how
so
maybe
the
you could have approached
supervisor is mentoring
that.
the team lead. Team lead may be providing information to the supervisor about a team member, but the supervisor is providing the team lead with information on how to handle the situation, which is when everybody starts first getting their experience on how to handle people.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the supervisor is only dealing with the team lead unless asked to step in further.
And that's where, as a supervisor, I think you should, in the cases that you can, you should empower your team leader to make those decisions and to handle what you can. If they can mitigate the situation,
Right.
mediate it without further involvement of anybody higher up.
Right.
If you don't need to involve supervisors, don't involve supervisors. Or if it comes up to the supervisor and you're like, I don't have time for this, talk them through how to actually handle it. Because there's a lot of shit that can come up that supervisors really don't need to get involved in.
Right.
So teach your team leaders how to handle that situation. The team leader should be able to handle that. So that's where, does it need to go up to the supervisor level? If it doesn't, the team leader should be able to handle that.
Yep.
And I touched base on it on the what is a team leader episode, but essentially, team leader is management without being management. You're not considered management in a management role or a middle management role, but
Right.
you're that middleman, that liaison between the floor personnel and the actual management.
Yeah.
You are just the relay for that.
Yep.
You're the in between. You're the middleman. You're the middle of middle management.
Yeah, it can suck being stuck in that kind of purgatory there, but it's just a fact of life that you got to get through and deal with, and you do a lot of learning at the team lead level.
And chances are you might find out you don't want to be management.
And that is the absolute truth. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because I know a lot of people that like leading teams, but they want nothing to do with having to hire or fire anybody.
Yeah, and maybe you find out that, yes, team lead is exactly what you want and where you want to stay. Maybe you find out leadership in general is not for you.
Yeah.
And that team lead is the first place where you're going to get that taste of, I don't like this. Chaos is too much for me.
It's a good way to dip your toes in the water.
Yes.
And without too much of a commitment of, I'm in charge of everybody.
Right.
Let me
You just have a few people.
Let me give it a shot.
Yeah.
Which is why I covered.
Yeah, the size of the team would be another big difference.
And I covered that too in the team lead episode of sometimes the whole team leader role could be decided by management and upper management and given to you as a specific role. Other times you could have a team that doesn't have a leader. In order to get anything accomplished, someone needs to be the chief of all the Indians.
Right.
You still need a leader to all the people that are there. So if you have a team that doesn't have a leader, chances are they're going to lean on whoever is the most confident, the most able to make decisions, and has a good understanding and people get along with. So your team might just say, hey, you are in charge. You are who we're going to come to. We don't want any of those roles. So you're our leader now. Congratulations, you're our leader. And I've been in that situation too. Like, I'm not going to go to anybody else. I'm coming to you, and I want you to be the one to handle this.
Yeah.
And it's a role that might just be pushed on you, but take it.
I just, for some reason, I got an image in my head of some person telling people, hey, this needs to happen, and them all just, okay, whatever. So that's the team lead. And then the supervisor is their bodyguard that eases up out of the shadows behind them with their arms crossed all big and bad and just goes, so everybody just complies all of us. Oh, yeah, okay, well, we're all good here. I got you.
And sometimes that has to happen because I've seen it a lot of times where I've been in the position where, hey, you're in charge of this, you're going to take care of all that, then you go try to make a decision, or, hey, why are we doing this? Ask a question, and people will give you so much shit. Like, oh, you think you're in charge of everybody now? No, that's just trying to get an understanding because I'm supposed to be taking care of this.
Yeah.
But if you want to argue with me, like, we can have a conversation about it, but my role only goes so far.
Right.
I'm making sure this job gets done. You're going to do whatever the hell you're going to do anyways. So sometimes you can be put in that position and you need somebody to come up and say, hey,
as a team
you need
lead,
to be listening to them because they are put in this role for a purpose. So you either choose to listen to them or choose not to. But
make sure not to escalate those situations yourself. Escalate them in the matter of you need to escalate it to your boss, but don't escalate the situation with that team member.
Don't argue about your authority and what decisions you can make because you're just going to lose respect.
Right.
Because then you just sound like somebody that's on a power trip.
Just say, all right, yep, we'll let this be handled another way. That's fine. And walk away. Go let your boss know if you're a team lead and say, hey, this is what's going on.
This just
Need
happened.
you-
Just want you to know.
Can
I'm
you
only
help
doing
me?
what I can do. So if it's something that needs to be addressed, can you take care of it?
Yep.
And chances are it'll be taken care of. But you don't want to be, you start arguing and escalating with that person, they're going to look at it like a power trip. You think you're all that just because you get put in this position, and there's no respect for that.
And everything you've been working so hard for, the respect and all of it, is going to be gone in the blink of an eye.
Just takes one time of losing your cool, one time of being just too frustrated, letting it get to your head, and you blow up. Everybody's going to lose respect for you. You lost all the progress you've made towards building a good team because they think you can't handle it.
Yep. So we had main differences between team lead and supervisor. We had your level of authority.
Mm-hmm. Supervisor's more of an authority figure.
You can hire and fire. Yeah, the HR related things all fall under the supervisor category. Team leaders, they're the ones mentoring the team. Supervisors are mentoring the team lead, but team leads are the one mentoring the team.
Yes.
Supervisors are they're monitoring progress.
Providing feedback and relaying information back to the supervisor.
The team lead is.
Yes.
Supervisor is monitoring progress. Team leads are mentoring the team. I think is a good way to say
Yep.
that.
Team leaders are usually doing the brunt of the work.
Correct.
So they're still doing the job, still working with one-on-one with all the people on the floor. Or
Their boots on the ground.
yes. Supervisor is more of a administrative.
Yeah, hands off.
Yep.
Indirect approach. Team
Yes.
lead's direct.
Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, so the interaction is direct with the team lead. It's more indirect with the supervisor.
Yeah. Direct leadership and indirect leadership.
Anything else? The only other difference is team leads typically report to the supervisor. I don't know of any situation I've ever seen where it's the opposite. So, yeah, I'd go out on a limb and say team leads report to supervisors. So that's the only other difference is the order in the hierarchy.
Yeah, a team leader has people that they report to, and then each supervisor, the supervisor is the team leader of all the team leads,
Yes.
essentially.
Yep.
And then each of the supervisors all report to the next guy, which that's the team leader of all the supervisors.
Yeah.
That's just how it gets broken down.
Yep.
And
Essentially.
it's only for the case it's because one person cannot monitor everybody in the big picture. You
Yeah.
have to break it down. And the smaller
we've
the
referenced
groups, it's easier.
The bird's eye view, where you got the 100-foot view, you've got the 1,000-foot view, the 10,000-foot view, the 30,000-foot view. So you've got all these different views, these different snapshots of the business that people are looking at, and as you go up higher, you get a different view that you're looking at all of it from, and you don't see what's going on at the 100-foot level, at the 30,000-foot level. You just can't. From that high up, you just can't.
Which is why
you
I
have
think
somebody there.
the military sets a great example with that, with how they break down that leadership structure. And I think there's been studies on it. I'd have to look into it, but I know there's been studies on it where the reason that they do 3-4-man teams is because one individual can easily manage 3 individuals. So like I can be in charge of 3 people and I can manage that fine. 3 people is easy to talk to, easy to communicate to. Once you bring that out to a larger picture, now I'm in charge of 12 people that I have to relay information to. Not every single one of them communicates the same way. Not every one of them hears the same thing the same way, and it's all different. So the more you can break that down into individual pieces, the more one person can handle that with 3 people. One person can answer 3 people's questions way more efficiently than one person answering 12, 20 people questions. So you break it down on the levels of 3. One team leader's in charge of 3 people. One squad leader's in charge of 3 team leaders. One platoon commander's in charge of 3 squad leaders. One company commander is in charge of 3 platoon commanders. So it's all broken out in groups of 3 because that's the most efficient and effective way to manage a team.
Yep.
Just keep them in small groups of 3. But then, yeah, you can see that bird's eye view real quick. You go from 3, 4 people to 12 to 36, now to 170 to an entire battalion, which is 3 companies, which now you're at 4, 5, 6, 700 people.
Right.
Plus whatever else. It's exponentially greater the further out you back away from it.
But it's very easy to relay information back and forth because
It's
of
all
the
done
structure.
in groups of 3.
Yep.
It's all individual based. I'm going to communicate to these people. They're going to disperse that information between their people.
Right.
And it's a very efficient way to relay information. Now,
and there's been studies and everything done about all that kind of stuff. You see it with classroom sizes and even teams and team leader sizes in the manufacturing level too. They try to keep it around. Ours was, they wanted it around 6. That was the ideal team size. And I'm sure there's been studies done on all of that kind of stuff.
and I'm
too.
sure it's that in that's
Probably
where,
different for each setting. And
well, in military
structure.
to civilian life, I can see that being the case because your life's likely not on the line in a manufacturing facility. So I can tell 6 people what to do because nobody's going to die
right.
in the information that I just gave. But
Right.
if I have to try and manage 6 people across, chances are if we're in a firefight, we could be spread across 100, 120, 150 yards. 6 of us. That's how can one person relay information across that whole chunk without breaking it down into smaller groups?
Yeah.
So that's where that small group helps the most in military is because your life's on the line.
Yep.
So
And that makes sense.
you can break away from that obviously as you get into less dangerous situations easily, but I'd say that pretty much covers that.
I think we've recapped all the differences we covered between a team lead and a supervisor. You got anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think that pretty well covers it.
Wrap her up there then. If you've got anything that we missed, make sure to let us know. Hit us up on social media. We are at J2B Podcast on Twitter. Just Two Brothers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Love to know what we missed. If you've got something, let us know.
If you like the episode, give it a like wherever you can. Subscribe to the podcast. Give us a rating and review. It all helps get the word out so we can be seen by more people. We want more streams. We want more listener interaction. So
Spread our message far and wide, and your support helps, and we do appreciate it. So with that, should be getting to be around Christmas time, I think, too.
So Merry Christmas.
If we haven't already missed it, Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, whichever side of that we're on with this episode. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the holidays or get to enjoy the holidays.
Get through them
Get some time off and relax a little bit, recoup, recover. We can get back at it in another week. So take care. We will talk at y'all later.
Thanks for listening, everyone.